Let's talk education. Hi there. I'm Alina Lewis and I cultivate family enrichment through student remediation and parent support services. And continuing on with our current series on students in virtual learning environments, in this episode of Let's Talk Education, I'm going to be sharing with you some tips about tracking student performance when learning virtually. Now, to get into the conversation about tracking student performance, I want to take a minute firstly to just touch on just taking a look on how is online learning being facilitated. If your child is learning online, it's important to recognize how it's being facilitated because that lets you know sort of what are your options. So at least it guides you a little bit. So there are two basic options available when it comes to online learning. Option one being virtual classes. And when we talk about virtual classes, we're talking about video-based classes where a student logs on to a platform. Some schools use Zoom, others use Microsoft Teams, others use Google Meet, and there's so many different platforms available. But it means you're logging on and you're able to see the teacher is able to see you, and the class happens live. Now, the way the class unfolds during the virtual session may vary, but the gist of it is we're logged on, we're live, we can talk to each other, and we can have that exchange of information. So we have virtual classes. And then the second option is including the integration of what is usually called a learning management system, or for others, more simply might refer to it as the online classroom. And the online classroom is that space that some institutions create that allows you to log on, access learning material. And learning material can be in the form of notes, video tutorials, graphic, or any other form of providing information for the purpose of fulfilling student learning. And of course, within the learning management system or the online classroom, there usually is that option where the school or the teacher is able to assign schoolwork, homework, classwork, whatever you want to call it, and the student will complete the work in their own time at home, much like they would have done homework if they were in a traditional learning environment, and they would upload or post their answers. And those are the two very basic options that they are typically when we start talking about online learning. So let's get in. If it is your child is being engaged in virtual classes only, then when we're talking about tracking student performance, as a parent, you want to then rely on communication with the child's teacher so that you can get feedback, and communication with your child so that you can get feedback. Because in this case, the feedback, whether from the teacher or the child, plays a really critical part in understanding to what extent is my child learning and understanding and is able to use the information communicated during the virtual class. Now, in some instances, a teacher might opt to do some sort of a quiz. So in communicating with your child's teacher, you want to be sure to ask, what are the options that are being made available through the learning experience that would help determine the extent to which your child is learning and progressing? So once you know how the teacher is gauging learning and how often the teacher is using this tool, this assessment tool, whatever it may be, it would help you, the parent, determine how often you want to liaise with the teacher in this regard. Alternatively, communication and here conversations can be had with your child on a daily basis, because you want to check in and let your child know that his or her learning is important, is valuable, and it is worth taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, to talk about. The second option has to do with the online classroom, or the having it facilitated through a broader learning management system. Because here we have the resources being stored online, posted online, graded online. It makes it just a smidgen easier to track student performance now using data. And when we talk about tracking the student performance using data, we're looking at having a facility that is now able to give you assignment grades and test grades. Because if your child has quote unquote homework or classwork that is maybe due daily or weekly or whatever other timeline that is posted, the same way the information, the assignment is posted online and the student puts their responses online, usually learning management systems allow the school or the teacher to be able to post the grade online, whether you got 8 out of 10 in your spelling assignment, or you got 20 out of 40 in your math assignment, or you got 100 out of 100 in your science assignment. Those grades are usually online. So you want to be able to peruse. Make sure you've taken time and reviewed a tutorial for whatever platform your school is using. And that would help you to be able to learn where you can find your grades and see how well your student is performing and be able to read any comments that a teacher may have left. And of course, periodically, whether midterm or end of term, teachers usually assign tests beyond assignments, some sort of an exam, and this could be through an online submission, it could be through a project that has to be done, but this too can provide data or grade that allows you to be like, hey, my child is able to demonstrate through the platform required by the teacher that he or she has learned and is doing well. Really important though, I want to encourage parents, be sure to ask and be mindful to understand what is your school's communication protocol, especially in this COVID recovery society that we're in. Remember, it's not business as usual. Teachers, principals, deans, and other members of faculty, they're not in as they usually would. Maybe sometimes they work from home, sometimes at school. It varies based on the institution. So you want to definitely check in. I encourage you, check in with your school admin so you could learn about how they are administering protocol and communication so that it could help bridge that gap. So that way, if you have questions or concerns, you know how to reach out, whether it's over the phone, whether it's through email, or maybe even some schools have the WhatsApp messaging system, or whether they have you reach out to them through their learning management system. You can post your questions or your comments to the online classroom. Whatever it is, if you know what the protocol is, you can follow it so that you can get responses. Because in this time where so many of us are muddling through, finding our way and doing the best that we can given the presence of COVID-19, we then have to communicate, make a greater intention to communicate a whole lot more. So we make sure that we're able to stay on top of things and we're going to be able to be effective. And last, but certainly not least, I'm encouraging parents to consider the storage of notes. In many instances, especially if you're looking at virtual classes, there may or may not be notes. But remember, your child needs to revise. So be sure to stay in touch with your teacher if you've not yet done so, to find out what do you need to do to make sure you have notes for your child, so that there could be the definitions, the explanations, the highlights, the summary, so that students could be able to do their learning and do it effectively. So in summary, yes, you can track student performance when learning virtually. Learning online isn't a recipe to say the quality of education has to be diminished, but what it does is that it signals to us that we have to do things differently. And in the process of working towards doing things differently, it means that we have to be intentional about our communication. paying attention to the new systems and moving forward in helping our child understand this new way of learning and growing in our education. And you two parents being able to find those new ways of communicating and working both with your child and your educational institute to make sure your child gets the best support possible. So, of course, my name is Alina Lewis, and I'm happy as always to be here with you as I work towards providing information that helps cultivate family enrichment through student remediation and parent support services. We've just wrapped up our chat about tracking student performance when learning virtually. So I hope these tips are really able to help you out. Feel free to reach out, educationandsuccesscoach@gmail.com. Send an email if there are any resources or templates you think you may need that we could provide and make sure we empower you to be the best and do the best. We can have experiences of success daily, and I want to encourage you to know that it's different, but it's not impossible. So keep working hard, keep supporting your kids, and keep following up with your financial institutions so that we can have a successful school term together. Until the next time, take care.